Welcome to the Story Selling Podcast, the show that explores the art and science of authentic marketing for purpose-led entrepreneurs. With me, your host and founder of the Story Selling Lab, Rob Drummond. The first time you run ads to promote your own business can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster, not least because it's a lot of work to get everything set up, to get your campaign set up, to plan which networks you're going to use, to write your ads, to develop your offer and your landing pages, to build all of the marketing automation pieces that might tie to that. When people opt in, you might need an email sequence that goes out. Maybe you've got an order form. Perhaps you're asking people to buy online. When people complete the order form, you need to deliver what they bought. You probably need to add them to a different email sequence. So it's a lot of work it's not like you can just throw up some ads and expect results to come in. Creating an advertising campaign on any of the ad networks is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to put the assets in place and to tie everything together. And then you get to the day of pushing the button on going live. And the sensation is one of excitement generally. If it's the first time you run ads, generally the sensation is one of excitement. And you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, hoping for there to be a flurry of leads coming in. More often than not, on your first advertising campaign, you'll wake up the morning after to a big fat zero. And it's kind of disheartening. And if you've never been through this, if you've never experienced this, then you will do, because it's one of the facts of life of advertising is that sometimes you run campaigns where you spend a lot of time preparing all of the assets, getting everything ready, and then you put your ads live and the internet collectively yawns in your face. And it's just one of those things. The temptation then with your own business is to take it personally. If I'm working on a client's account, I'm far more detached from the outcome. But if it's me and my own business, I'm much more attached to the outcome. And it's tempting to take it personally, and that you spend a bit of money, you don't generate any results, and you let it drop. You pause the ads, you pull back, you stop generating leads, and consequently, you don't move your business forwards. You don't generate the volume of leads required to grow and potentially sustain your business. And that is a crying shame. So today's episode of the Story Selling Podcast is going to address the mindset of running ads for your own business. And I'm calling this the advertising mindset. There's three ideas we're going to talk about. The first is stoicism, the second is persistence, and the third is risk, which really relates to budgets. So let's jump in. A few years ago, I published all of my daily emails that I wrote throughout the year. I combined into a book called The Grumpy Marketer Annual. It was called Grumpy Marketer 2017. There were three versions: Grumpy Marketer 2016, Grumpy Marketer 2017, and Grumpy Marketer 2018. Those books are actually still on Amazon. If you go and search for Grumpy Marketer on Amazon, my books will show up. And the concept of me being a grumpy marketer was kind of a joke. I'm called grumpy very often by my wife. She thinks I am very grumpy about a wide range of things. And sometimes she is correct. I have also been known to be grumpy about marketing, which is kind of funny because it's the only thing I'm qualified in any respects to do and have any real, degree of work experience in. But I'm grumpy about the way marketing often works, and about the fact that the people who seem to make the most money working in marketing are often offering get-rich-quick solutions, and that's kind of the opposite to what I'm doing. So I'm kind of grumpy about that as well. But I actually think I actually think the word grumpy was wrong. I think really what I am is stoic. And if you look at the history of Stoicism, and if you look up the Stoic writers from the Roman Empire and so on, what it really amounts to, adopting a Stoic approach, is really doing everything in your power to achieve a certain outcome, It's making sure you take all of the shots that you can to the absolute best of your ability without becoming overly hung up on the outcome or other things that you cannot control. It's about obsessing over the things that you can control and not worrying too much about the things you can't control. And that includes the final outcome. I think it pays quite well to have a stoic outlook towards your ads. So you can feel good about yourself. If you set an ad campaign live and you've done everything right, you've researched the market, you've put a lot of thought into your ads, you've crafted a good set of ads, you've created a landing page and an offer, and you've got at least a few automated emails that go out when people opt in. You've done everything you need to do. If you don't see the results that you want, that's kind of one of those things, and something that I'm going to argue on this episode of the Stoic Selling podcast is that is actually still a good outcome, because you've learned something. You've learned that you tried one thing and it didn't work, and trying one thing and it not working moves you one step closer to finding something that does work. Assuming you have a good proposition, which for most of my listeners, you do. You serve your clients in some particular way. The people that you help do genuinely need your services. So the world needs to hear your message. The question is how do you package up your message in a way that is interesting to new potential clients who don't know you from Jack. So I'd encourage you to have a stoic outlook towards your ads. Your job is to do everything you possibly can to make the ads a success, but you can't control what you don't control. And even if you don't generate the response that you need, even if, heaven forbid, you generate a big fat zero, which won't happen very often, but it will happen from time to time, that is just a path on the course correction. That's the best way to view it, as long as you're being persistent. So persistence is the second idea I want to talk about on this episode. So you've adopted the Stoic approach. The second element in the advertising mindset is taking persistent action towards achieving traction with your ads. To a degree, the thing that underpins persistence is having a longer term outlook than sort of the next 7 or 30 days. A lot of paid advertising, especially if you are a service provider and you're managing ads for clients, the focus is very much on the short term. You need to deliver the goods now or the arrangement is going to end. If you're running ads for your own business, it's a little bit different, because you want to take a slightly longer term approach. You're trying to find an approach that will deliver profitable leads to your business that your competitors can't immediately see or copy or knock off, or even if they do try to copy it and knock you off, they can't, because you've been making small incremental improvements, adjustments, course corrections to your strategy, and not all of those course corrections are visible. Not all of those tactical decisions that you have made that are right for you and your business, not all of those tactical decisions will be right for them. So if they look at your ads and look at your landing pages and see that you're doing and saying certain things, they can copy that, but those things might not necessarily be right for them. So the idea behind persistence is that we're viewing this as a long-term project. And the goal here is to generate affordable, consistent leads, attention coming into your business. Every business needs attention, more attention coming into it from new potential clients. And my argument is that paid ads it's certainly the fastest way of doing that. And it also is the fastest way of testing your messaging in order to then leverage your messaging in other media, which was what we were talking about last week. But it's no good to just run ads for 7 days or 14 days and then either see a big fat zero or to not see the results that you want. And it is disappointing. It is disappointing, especially when you've spent a lot of time, if nothing else, getting everything in place. It's disappointing when it doesn't work. But it's generally a mistake to shut the ads off. Or at least to shut the ads off and not immediately start working on your next iteration, on your next campaign. Often when an ad campaign doesn't work, it's very rarely because the whole thing is wrong. When you isolate the different components, you've got your audience targeting, You got your ad copy, you got the call to action itself and the wording of the call to action. You might have a landing page if you're sending people to a page on your website. You've got your proof elements on the landing page. It's very rare that all of these things might be wrong. Usually it's one thing that's wrong. Either the targeting isn't quite right, or the ad copy doesn't quite have the right approach. Maybe you're talking about the wrong problem. Perhaps you're talking about a problem that your target audience doesn't think is particularly important. So, often you can achieve traction with a campaign by keeping everything the same, but changing the intro to your ads to focus on a different problem. So you're not binning off the whole thing. It's tempting to say, well, okay, it hasn't worked. And you do feel down about it when it's your own ads and it's your own business, and you've invested your time and therefore your life in building both your business and your advertising campaigns. It's disheartening when the internet yawns in your face. But what you have to do is carry on advertising, change one aspect of the campaigns. I would argue that the places to start are in changing the angle of your ads, in what's called the hook. How do you hook people in? What problem do you focus on in the ads? Or do you talk more about the transformation that you deliver? You can test different approaches. Sometimes you can keep the majority of the approach the same, but make a different offer in the ads. So often what I've seen in some of my advertising campaigns recently is that we changed the offer from offering, say, a lead magnet to just inviting people to subscribe to the email list. And actually, sometimes it can work better. And we've kept everything else the same. We've just changed the call to action. So be persistent, and there's multiple variables that will lead to success here. So keep testing those variables one at a time. The final idea I want to talk to you about on this episode is risk, and this relates to budget. So in an ad campaign, there are two phases in regards to budget. There is a testing budget and there is an expansion budget. And in the beginning, you have to set a testing budget that you are comfortable losing if it doesn't work. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to find that point of traction. You're trying to see, well, okay, I can spend $200 for argument's sake. If it doesn't generate results, then I'll have learned something. But you're comfortable spending that amount in order to learn. That's your testing budget. Once you've then achieved that point of traction, you have your expansion budget, which is what you actually want to spend to generate the leads that you need to scale your work, scale your impact, grow your audience, grow your business. But for most of my clients, we have to start off by figuring out what that test budget is. And really what we're trying to do is make small risks, but allow for the possibility of big gains. Because when you achieve traction in your ad, that is a big gain. That's probably a gain that, if you have direct competitors, that's probably a gain that they do not have. So you're spending a little bit of money, you're investing a little bit in your ads, you're making small risks on an ongoing basis in a persistent way with a stoic mindset, with a view to trying to unlock big results. We're trying to spin the key in the lock to find the right combination that's going to unlock greater, more leads at an acceptable cost per lead. So that's really the advertising mindset. In recap, the three ideas that we've covered are stoicism, persistence, and risk. So stoicism being to do with doing everything in your power to achieve a positive outcome without being overly attached to the outcome. Persistence is taking constant steps, constantly testing, making small risks to try and unlock big results. In terms of persistence, I think you need to be in your ad account every 1 to 2 days, especially on LinkedIn. If you're running ads on paid social, you need to be in the ad account quite frequently. It's not a set and forget thing. So persistence is also tied to, if you get busy running your business for weeks and weeks at a time, then you need to pay someone to manage your ads for you. On which note, if you want help with that, if you want to talk to me about options, go to storyselling. We'll go from there. Otherwise, thank you for listening to this episode of the Story Selling Podcast. Hope it's been interesting. I will speak to you next time. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Story Selling Podcast, you'll want to make sure you're on my email list. head to storyselling.biz/podcast, where you can opt in to future episode notifications and also download my lead incubator blueprint. You can also find my book, Simple Story Selling, on Amazon in paperback and Kindle formats. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.